For those of you who don't know me, my name is Damien Priestley. I'm a contemporary fine artist. My work looks at social injustice, cultural changes from societal upheaval and historical wrongs which continue today. My pieces are all about the narrative. Without the backstory, there's only the image. I pride myself in being a draftsman. I'm technically pretty competent, but truly it's the story that matters. Because of the sensitive or divisive subjects I look at, the research is imperative. I typically study a topic for 1 to 3 months before even picking up a pencil. The end work can be looked at and enjoyed for its purely visual narrative, of course, but in truth, because of the story being told, it's on the other level of engagement between the piece and the viewer. The more they put in, the more they'll ultimately get back, hopefully. In my last programme, I looked back at my Missing Series 1 collection, created around 20 years ago. In this, my second programme, I'll be looking at my Missing Series 2 collection. This was painted between 2004 and 2005. Within the series, I focused on two quite distinct things. One, the concept of the American dream, and two, the idea of echoes, sensory echoes, if you will, in a space, a place, or an object. The American dream from the point of view that its unquestioning belief and hope soullessly based on the unfulfilled promise of advertisements and illusions. It's a concept which has been sold as a product, this dream, the most desirable product, but available to all, of course, or that's the myth. It would appear to an outsider that growing up in America, one is imbued with the, from the earliest age, with the understanding that their country is the richest and most powerful nation on earth, that God favours them most. Countries just don't come any better, and that with a little good old-fashioned hard work and a sprinkling of good luck, things can be just as presented on the TV. Inevitably, perhaps, this illusion is not convincing a growing percentage of people who realise that their escape from bitter reality seems impossible. Still, there are, of course, and completely understandably, those who try for a better way of life, believing that they can escape the mind-numbing, dreary uniformity of mid-America. Blighted by bigotry, in some cases, religious evangelists, poverty and 24-hour television noise. The hope and belief that ultimately they will escape to a place where there must be more to life than the vast landlocked states which offer nothing of the so-called promised land. The dream their president and corporate advertising guarantees to deliver. Unfortunately for some, this journey of discovery and hope does not always have a happy or even acceptable end. For those drawn to the need for escape and change, their actual and metaphorical journey can be derailed at a train station, a bus station, a ferry port, or a car stopping by the roadside. This wide-eyed naivety instantly enveloped and smothered. Missing Series 2 looks at the notion of wanderlust and change, of a road trip to paradise, of how those seeking a better life are easily led by the stories of false promises of others, despite their desire not to be taken and absorbed by them. Existing in this world too, and the reason why, on this stage where the tragedy unfolds, is the psychotic. Their version of the American dream of fulfillment through the acquisition of possessions is a wholly different thing. The Frankenstein's monster twisted interpretation of this ideal manifests itself in the ultimate possession, that of another human being. The vehicle in this version is detachment, of course, by disassociating themselves from seeing their victims as human. Mr. S. Michaud wrote in his The Only Living Witness, a study of a serial killer, since this girl represents not a person but an image or something desirable, the last thing we would expect them to want would be to personalize this person. They are the desirable object and a possession. Capitalism meets the modern Prometheus in the mind of the psychopath, if you will. The other thing I considered in this series was the idea of the echo. If something bad happens in a space or location, and you don't know it's happened there, is that sense, is that place, could it be contaminated with the negative act? Does the earth reabsorb that? You know, I don't know. If you walk into a house or through a wood where there has been a tragic act or loss, would you feel it? Would you sense it? It's a question. Some of the images that I used in the works were actually locations where bad things happened or significant things that happened. In one piece, there's a row of cinema seats, and in actual fact, that was the cinema seat where Lee Harvey Oswald was sitting on the day he was arrested after the assassination of Kennedy. That's where he was found. The story behind Kennedy is a whole different thing, but that cinema seat is in that picture, and the girl in front of it, the piece is called That's It, has been picked up in a cinema, and that's the last that you see of that person. Does that cinema seat that she was sitting in when she was picked up, is there a lasting legacy there? This is really the question. Is this echo in the place? I mean, every neighbourhood has an innocuous mid-century house that emits an aura of something not quite right. We all grew up next to one of those. Well, certainly not next to one, but, you know, in your vicinity, you know, that house, what's going on in there, the house that you would get a feeling about when you walk past. You know, where I grew up during the darkest days in Belfast of the Troubles, there are far too many street corners, houses in areas where they're saturated in heinous wrongdoings, loss and death, sodden with it. And today, a visitor, of which there are many, cruise ships arrive in Belfast docks on a daily basis, something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. Great that it is, but unless these people were informed of the history by a tour guide on certain street corners, would they feel the history? I'm not sure. But I do know, however, from personal experience that the collective, that collective echo of melancholy rests heavily over the city, my city. It rests as heavily as the sky, you know, scratching the roof tiles on houses. It feels like an oppressive sky. So in this collection, we see a series of seemingly normal life scenes in America at an unspecified time. It could be the 1950s, it could be sometime in the near future. In the piece Home, there's a slight aspirational quality to the house, the area, the car and the drive. But behind the closed doors, the shadows in the forest, the lyrics to a popular, easy listening song, or the words of a disc jockey on a Bible radio station, there's an omnipresent element of foreboding. Something's just not quite right. These places, these sights, these sounds, what is not seen but only felt, and only when it's too late for our killer's victims. The story I've tried to capture in this collection is the promise of the dream, as force-fed in the classrooms, the Pledge of Allegiance, the sleight of hand that guilt trips the population into believing that criticism or questioning the accepted narrative is unpatriotic. If you want to research that further, I would recommend a book called Deer Hunting with Jesus by Joe Badgent. Phenomenal book about that very, very topic, but I'll address that in a later collection called Ammo Smokes and Debbie Cakes. That'll be in a few weeks' time. But back to this. That acquisition of unneeded material goods is another myth of a worthy pursuit. All of these things it's a marketing and sales con worthy of a Victorian snake oil salesman. These distractions which lead to blindness to the actuality of life, which is no bad thing in certain occasions, but it shouldn't replace the clear view of what's going on. It's just that it leaves a percentage of the population open to be taken advantage of in the most extreme ways, and at times paying the ultimate price. As in the previous Missing series, compositionally, the background colours reflect and represent the environment where the crimes take place. But on this occasion, they also echo man-made structures as well as the natural ones. In the previous one, it would have been the soil, the trees, etc. In this one, it's advertising hoardings, gate posts, concrete storage units, and so on. The composition, similar to Missing Series 1, shows an order in the mind of our killer, and the order of life, or the implied order of life, albeit a deceitful one, that has been instilled in our victims, mistakenly taking it as a dependable security and predictable safety. You put your hands out, you know where something is, everything's going to be okay. So let's imagine a possible one story. She followed the crowds. Their collective optimism and elation at a temporary escape was infectious. A handsome man walked up to Amy by the cyclone ride in Coney Island. It was a chilly and damp November evening in 1974, and the attractive 17-year-old was gazing wide-eyed at the twinkling and blurring lights of the funfair when the man approached and introduced himself. New in town? And that's it. The American dream becomes a nightmare. Missing Series 2. Some people have said it's my hardest collection to actually look at, and I get that. Out of the original collection, I think 2 pieces still remain, and I can understand why. But in conclusion tonight, I'll leave the last words to Mr. David Lynch, a big fan, by the way. There's a great documentary streaming at the minute called Lynch Oz. Well worth watching. I highly recommend it. I watched it last week, and in a slightly, Cormac crossover, I thought I'd post this clip connecting the title of my channel to the great man himself.
Damien asks, what's behind the red curtains? It's a top secret thing, Damien. And just leave it like that.